All right, on Radio Chutney, we are back with Jagrati Mathur, and we had spoken a couple of weeks back on your startup, starting your startup in Singapore or in India or anywhere. Today, we're going to go a step further, like promised, and we are going to talk about arranging investment for that startup. Jagrati, my very first question to you: various ways in which anyone can secure funding for their startups.
Okay, the ways in which they can secure funding for their startups are first is to invest your own money. That's called bootstrapping. So what they can do is that the founders of the startup can use their own personal savings and invest in their startup to fund their initial stages, or they can ask their families and friends to come and contribute to the investment, right? Who believe in their vision, who think the startup can grow. That's the very first way of investing in their business. Second way in which they can arrange funding is angel investors. So angel investors are basically people or high net worth individuals who provide early stage funding in exchange of some equity or a debt. And so they ask you that, okay, you give me some percentage of equity in your company and you take money from me, or you take it as a debt or a loan and then you repay it and it has some conditions around it. Or they say that, okay, you give me a convertible debt. So convertible debt is an option where they can convert their debt into equity at a later stage. So these are some ways where angel investors prefer to invest in your business. Then comes venture capital. So venture capital, or a VC, which is very popular term these days, or very popular way of getting investment, is a VC firm. So they are basically professional people or professional investment firms that provide capital to startups at various stages of development in exchange of equity. So that's how a VC works. Then there's something called crowdfunding. So crowdfunding are like platforms which allow multiple investors to buy shares in a startup. So that's called crowdfunding, where you'll say, okay, XYZ can come and buy a share in a startup, and it'll be like multiple people coming together to fund one startup. Then there's something called incubator and accelerator, which I think is an amazing concept. So what do incubators and accelerators do is that they have these programs, where they say that, okay, I'll give you office space, I'll give you mentorship and resources, I'll make all these things available to you, but you give me some percentage of your equity. So these are basically called the incubators. And what do accelerators do is they offer funding, mentorship, resources for a fixed period, and then they say, okay, let's see how you have grown. So that's incubators and accelerators. Then you have traditional ways like, you can go to bank, you can ask them for a loan, you can ask them for credit lines, or nowadays there are different government grants and schemes which you can use if you are a startup. And then what else you can do is you can enter into these strategic collaborations and partnerships, where you say, okay, I'll give you funding, I collaborate with you in exchange for equity and some other benefits, and your company, and you give me funding and resources or market exchange, whatever is required. You build that strategic partnership and get the funding and the access that you need. And then now, since crypto is so popular, one of the ways could be an ICO, which is an initial coin offering, where what you do is that startups issue their own tokens or cryptocurrencies to investors in exchange for funding. So this is one popular way for companies now, doing an ICO. And of course, there are PE firms, there are big firms that provide capital to Series B kind of startups. So basically those who have already had some investment in their business, they look for those basically mature startups who are looking for growth funding and are looking to exit or preparing for an exit. So that is a PE firm equity. And there's something called revenue-based financing. So what happens is that investors give you capital in exchange for a percentage of ongoing revenue that you have until the amount is recovered. So these are certain ways in which you can raise funding for your startup. Okay, so things which you have to keep in mind while you are attracting investors to your business, I would say, is that you should have a strong business plan. So basically, an investor should rely on your investors. Basically, rely on your vision, right? If you have a strong plan, if you have a strong vision, and if the investor is in sync with the vision that you have, the growth strategy that you have, then it's easier to get an investor on board, right? So I would say have a strong business plan, have a proven traction. So if your business is already generating sales, has some good partnerships, there's some cases which you can show where you have done well and your business plan is working, then it builds that confidence with the investor that, okay, this business is good, I can invest in this business. So proven traction could be another thing to keep in mind while you want to attract investors to your business. Then I would say a clear value proposition. So basically, investor should know what he's investing into, what is the proposition or what is the value he's getting out of that investment. So if you have a clear value proposition and you can prove that you have a competitive advantage, then it is easier to get an investor for your business. Then they rely on the founding team when they are getting into the business, or the team which is working behind the startup. So if you have an experienced team, right, who have the skill and experience, then of course it is much easier to get an investor for your startup. Then, of course, for getting investors, you need to have good networking, you have to have good relationships, you should have some industry experts who who can vouch for you, or you have some precedence in the market of raising more money or having that access to the network, so that it's easier for you to find good investors for your business. And then most important is that your compliances should be up to date. If there's any issue with your legal or regulatory compliance, then it's a big red flag for an investor. So I just want to highlight that before an investor invests money in your business, you have to have your valuation reports and your due diligence done. Due diligence is that an investor would ask a legal firm or an audit firm, or a due diligence or valuation firm, to go through your company's financials, policies, procedures, and look for any red flag before he puts his money. So if any of the regulatory compliances are not done properly, your financials are not drawn properly, your valuation is not in place, your projections, if they have any issue or if there's any procedural issue, until that is corrected, the investor does not put in money. So make sure your legal compliances, your regulatory compliances, your finances are all in good shape. Okay, so if you are clueless about it, then come to us. We are here to guide you for every step. That's what we do. That is what we are here for, to give you the right mentor, to get you investors, to give you complete marketing support, accounting support, financial support, legal support. If you need any good distribution channels, we are there to help you with it. If you need any policy procedure upgrade, we are there to guide you for that. So basically, we not only help you get funding, but we provide you that ecosystem which helps you to improve your business and get the right investors. Basically, we can help you make investment ready.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jagrati. As always, super wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you too, Imani.